too upset about.
Record.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, November 12th at 5:30. The Town of Winthrop's Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee meeting is starting. We'll just go quick round and do a roll call. I'm Steve McDermott.
George Smith.
Whitney Pond.
Pat Lab,
Penny Gray.
Pat Savory. Tim Adams.
Tim Adams just joined. Penny Craig is a guest tonight, not a member of the committee. But that gives her, hey, man, how are you? I'll buy some time here. Gives Penny the opportunity to hop in if she wants during our public comment period. Do you have any public comment?
Not yet.
No, well, listen. You can go under other business as well. All right, so no public comment. Review and approve August minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review those? No, I take a motion to amend or approve. And take a second.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Wonderful, we've done it. Put a little check mark there, so I know it's been done. Okay. Item 017. Implementer commitment. So we've had a conversation, that Tim's response says it all, I think. George, you get moved off the naughty list in this festive season. Implementer, we've talked for several months about how is the best way to chunk out 21 implementers, some were duplicates, over 200 strategies. And one way that we talked about was creating kind of implementers of interest. George did respond to the request for 3. Several of you responded to say, assign anyone who hasn't been assigned, and that was everybody who George didn't choose. So I appreciate it, while I appreciate everybody's flexibility. And it gave me the opportunity to use a random name generator. That was fun and exciting. I went through and identified people. Whitney had brought up, I think earlier, a really good point that to account for the differences in numbers of strategies that are assigned. And I didn't account for that. So I went through and assigned implementers for us to be focused on based on knowledge of areas of interest and reducing from what George identified. George, you get your top 3, which I think were the executive assistant who actually responded to our request. Public schools and recreation director.
Okay.
Which I think is a good mix. Pat Savory gets extra, she gets 4.
Cause she's a top producer.
She's a top producer. And 1 was before I even knew about her new appointment to the Downtown Revitalization Committee, so I don't know that this one actually counts, because she'll be there anyway. Code Enforcement, Downtown Revitalization Committee, Public Works, and School Board, so obviously some overlap with George. Public School Board. I think the way I think about that is public schools is really like the staff component, school board is the elected officials component.
Yeah.
Pat Ladd,
Yes. Planning board.
Pat Ladd did get Historic Society.
Ooh, really?
Yeah,
Huh? What are you gonna do with us?
well,
Smack her with a machine.
there was a series of questions that did go out to all the implementers, and I did not receive a response from the Historic Society. But along with many others.
Did it go to Penny?
No, it did not. There was a conversation earlier and I went to the general Winthrop Historic Society email, which is where I was asked to
And no one responded.
go to.
I didn't see it.
That's okay. We'll hear more about responses. Yeah,
Well,
Pat Ladd will be there.
I'm now reading it every day, so that'd be a problem.
The Conservation Commission
Oh, good.
and the Planning Board.
Okay, good. I knew you'd get it. That's good.
Whitney has the ambulance service, the police department, the fire department,
Hmm.
And let me, the school superintendent was broken out, so we have school board, school district and superintendent. I don't necessarily know that we need to break out this public schools versus superintendent. But I'd love feedback. I don't just want to arbitrarily.
I'd wanna look at what strategies have been assigned to each
Right.
one independently.
Right.
They were flipped a bit. And to me, it's the superintendent's responsible for delivering on the public schools
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
because they're the,
so my assignment to the school board's really irrelevant.
no, because they are the elected officials
Okay.
that hire the superintendent. Who direct the superintendent to do things, and the superintendent is in charge of delivering them. So I do think it is important. It's kind of like later you'll hear the town council versus the town manager.
Right.
And while the town council might direct policy, the town manager implements.
Implements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is then responsible for the staff. So I'm just curious if we need somebody assigned to public schools and superintendent.
Who has public
Just,
schools?
we're just schools.
I do.
in general.
You do.
George's public schools.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see what you get from your group and I get from my group, what the differences would be.
But you're thinking the superintendent, you're thinking the board's independent. I got the board.
Yeah, board
It's
separate.
those two.
Yeah.
Could be.
I think it should be lumped together.
Yeah,
together.
primarily because who would be the main point of contact with the schools as
The
a
superintendent,
whole?
Right.
the superintendent, so.
Yeah.
So George, cross that off your list.
Well, no, I think
Work
Whitney,
together.
Whitney is public service and safety over here.
Yeah, right. She's got our first responder.
Yeah,
I think George gets the superintendent.
and then Whitney can feed, Whitney has, I don't know if you mind that I show that you have a child in the school,
Oh,
so that
no worries.
keeps one less line of.
Yeah.
Conflict there. Okay, great, so ambulance, fire and police,
You can do more.
well, we'll see where we go.
I can help with the town manager, cause I.
Would you give me, Steve, besides the rec director, public schools? what was
The
it?
executive assistant. And I can send all this out as well, and this lives in the public folder, but
Does the exec assistant exist anymore?
no, there's a new as well,
There
yeah,
was, and it's
I think
now,
there's,
they took that.
it's a new
position.
title.
But, okay, once again, I wanna look at what it was assigned,
Yes.
because.
But they gave us a really great, Deb Nichols gave us a really great response for all the things assigned to
It's
the
a good
executive. Yeah,
system.
so we have a good place to start.
So, George, it's our town clerk.
Oh, okay. So it's Debbie.
Well, and they hired a new position, so I think there will be some
They
for
filled
conversation.
executive assistant. They did?
Well, Deb said that, or Miss Nichols, I don't know how long we need to be, Deb announced that. In her response said that there was a new position, whether it's been filled, I shouldn't be so confident. Jan? Right in your wheelhouse, finance director? The town assessor? And then recreation committee, which currently has no appointed members.
Good luck getting a response out of that.
What did George get rec committee?
I thought I got.
We got recreation director,
And what did Tim get?
recreation committee.
Ah,
So the rec director is a non-municipal staff position that is, it's Lonnie. Who is employed by the YMCA. But
Retire,
so we don't need to complicate this right now, Penny.
You can't talk, that's all right.
We're
Still new business.
we're trying our best to very rigorously follow Robert's rules here, please,
Good
of
luck.
course, participate, yeah. No, Lonnie is retiring, but the rec director is not a municipal position. It is an individual who has been identified as an implementer, but is not paid for, is not an employee of the town. And the rec committee is, when it was appointed, there were a group of appointed individuals from the town. Who helped guide that, so, and I think there's some interest from some town councils to get that going, but we'll see where they are with that. And the town assessor, I think, is again, not a town position, that's that's an organization we contract with, but given some of the things that are upcoming and the importance of. Different municipal finance tools, it could be, I think that will be something that is likely not a lot, and then a lot, and then not a lot.
So what are your three, Tim?
Finance director, town assessor, and rec committee.
And then I have town manager, town council, and utilities district. Well, there, it is, and intentional,
That is a lot,
right? I don't want,
given.
Yeah. they have a lot assigned to them, but there's only so much work that they'll be doing.
Yeah.
At any given time,
Who's your third one, Steve?
the utilities district.
Are
There's
you-
also, you can announce their retirement there if
I
you
didn't
like.
know that.
Uh,
Yeah.
You did it. That's what I meant by this.
Yeah,
yeah, Dan Wells has announced his retirement and they're looking for, the position has been posted.
probably it's in my email somewhere, but when you send out all these assignments again, would you include the letter that they got of the questions so we can?
Yeah.
Nudge the historical society specifically.
Come up with that.
We can, I mean,
And. So you'll send out the.
Yeah.
The original email that went out to everybody. And I don't know that I've ever seen a summation of who has responded and who has not.
that's great. That's what we're gonna talk about under this.
You're feeding it. Will, we talked.
Yeah, we had a
We
script.
talked.
We scripted this. So for anybody listening in the audience later on. After a June 4th meeting with all of the implementers, we sent out an email that had four questions, effectively asking the different assigned implementers. Have you reviewed the comp plan, which, would have been okay if there was a no. If you have, what are some things you're interested in working on? What are you working on? Or what are you working on or would you like to work on? What do you think you probably can't work on and what should be assigned to somebody else or should you not be assigned to? Those are sent out. We sent out a series of follow-ups. There were conversations with different groups. Were some communications and back and forth that I had over the past 4 months with different groups. And so we're just kind of at a point where it's been 4 months. Our work is going to be predicated on what are people already doing? How can we move forward? How can we support them? How can we vision and do the work with our work to report back to the council? We've received one response. Well, we received several responses. There was one response of the 19 kind of implementers that answered those 4 questions. Several other respondents included the worksheets from the big workbook of what they're working on, but not necessarily some of that other detail work. For context, there are 9 implementers that are town employees or employed directly by the town. There are 6 groups that are either elected or appointed officials ranging from the town council to the school board. There's one quasi municipal entity, the utilities district, who did respond, but really was more like, we're going to have difficulties meeting this because of how utilities are financed. There's,
It's a non-response, basically.
yeah, it was a response that indicated why it would be challenging to extend the utilities. And it was a really, it was a good meeting to help me further understand how utilities are financed and the work that they're looking to do. We had we had 2 non-affiliated entities, the Historic Society and the Recreation Director, were identified as implementers, and we had 1 contracted entity, the assessor. So like I said, we received a number of responses, really only 1 response from the Conservation Commission that said, here's how we're approaching this work. Some town staff, Nick Poole, the finance director, already mentioned Deb Nichols, town manager Anthony Wilson. And Dawn Emerson, the town planner, they responded, but not necessarily kind of to those areas that would guide us in how we could collate and drive some of the work. And Lonnie, the recreation director, also responded, but again, really he gave more of a working on, not working. I'd love to work on and not working on. And so I broke those down into 19. That's less than the number that we sometimes talk about 21 or 23, because I didn't include, for Public Works, I didn't then include I included the Public Works Director, but not then the ones assigned to Public Works, because that person would be the respondent. So that's where we are with the questions and how we were thinking about our work.
So. Last time we met, we were also talking about, now that we have the assignment. You know, we kicked around ideas about how to go talk with them, and I don't know that we ever got past that. Or what the plan is, how do we approach these people and those sorts of things, did we?
No, we talked about, like, if it did take place, the email that we would have, was it that everyone could or should be CC'd on the communications, have the option to be included? But I think it's personal thoughts. I feel like it's gonna be, more tailored to the individual, because some people might want to meet in person, whereas some people may not have the time for that, and they want to stick just to email. Before that, though, I'm kind of wondering if we do want to go through and, comb through the list ourselves still, to try to weed out some of the possible implementers that don't fit in certain areas.
It's something we've been talking about. for
Yeah,
months,
that's what-
too,
yeah.
but that's a massive effort.
Yeah, but if it's all broken up, I'm wondering if it might be a little bit easier to
We could,
get through.
and if you don't feel equipped to do it, we can sit down in a meeting together and do it, but.
My question on that, though, is I did kind of start just going through the master list to kind of get a feel for every.
I mean, like,
It's
isn't the town
a-
manager's name on literally 90% of them? I'm just,
Say about.
Yeah,
that many.
right.
But my question there is, are we looking at the primary implementer being either the decision maker or the driving force behind the whole strategy, or more like a delegator? Like, what is that role? Do we want to identify like the roles of the primary and then the secondary or subsequent implementers that are included before we try determining whether someone is or is not?
In the plan, there was nobody identified as a primary or non-primary implementer. They're just implementers identified. So I think part of that is who is responsible, who holds ownership. But I'd love to actually get to this conversation after we talk about the town council presentation, because I think that will shape some of how we do this. So, but before I lose part of what you mentioned, and I want to make sure I get that in my notes. One of the things you mentioned is, do we want to go through and see if there are implementers that might not seem to make sense at this point, or if things are done? I would, if that is an activity that people would like to undertake to be useful and helpful here, I think that would be incredibly helpful. I think the question we come up with is, how do we do that in a way that makes sense? But it says that I want to make sure I'm not just you're not just volunteering for this because you've raised it as a point, but is that something that you want to start chipping away through, or?
I am happy to start with it. I did start going through it. I'm not sure if I have all of the information on all of the different implementers and the breadth of the roles that they play. To be able to definitively say yes or no, but I have found a few so far where it's more so just, you know, I have a separate list where I'm saying, hey, 6.1, should we possibly add or remove, you know, things like that. So I can keep going with that and bring it to a future meeting if that might help. And
I hear you, because I feel like, having been on the comp plan committee, then I said a lot of that just came forward from the prior plan. It was just, let's just push all these names in here and leave it be, right? I would just hope that we could cross out not necessarily change, and I'm not advocating that we attempt to modify the plan officially, because I don't want it to go through another approval process.
Right.
This is internally for us. That it makes more sense to us as a committee that, well, really, you know what? Public Works is not gonna get involved with this. I'm using that purely as an example, or the school board is going to do this, but really, can we cross them off and just leave it with the superintendent? I understand your hesitation of knowing exactly what I can cross off officially and leave out. So I feel like it's something I should do. And I'd like to commit to doing it in January.
I,
And when you say cross out, do you mean go through each strategy? Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking
go
about?
through the grid and say, this name just doesn't belong here. It just doesn't.
As in the strategy would still exist. you
Yes.
Just give it to somebody else.
Will not give it to, I believe we probably have them all properly identified, but we've probably overloaded with other possible contributors that don't need to have it on their sub sheets, you know, you really aren't gonna get involved here. However, we just even talked about it. We have a public works director, we have public works. He's taken public works off because you're gonna look at the director, period, end of sentence. Kind of like the superintendent and school board are gonna work together. Do we need schools? No, probably not. We need those two. So I think
so it sounds like, Pat,
we'll do it in January.
we'll do that.
I don't want to try to do it between now and the end of the year. There's too many other things going on.
I do think that we can work through an amendment process, and this can be very much internal initially. I do think that if we are going to have a living working document, it should be the amended and approved document. We can work to figure out
How to do that.
what that means. I don't think amendments go through the same rigorous process, particularly this does not. And when I say rigorous process, I mean a voting process on a ballot. These types of changes do not seem. These types of changes would be what the state would call routine and technical, not major and substantive.
And we're effectively not changing the content of the plan itself.
Right,
We're just looking at fine tuning the strategy grid.
that's what I'm hearing. Okay, well,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. So, just to be clear, so its strategies still exist. But instead of having to reach out to 5 implementers, you might need to only reach out to 4 because one doesn't quite have much of a stake in that specific strategy.
The ultimate goal is to redistribute these worksheets that are diminished by 20%.
does it make sense while you go through this activity to try and identify a primary implementer
Yes,
as well?
yes.
I like that idea.
A friend of mine once said, when nobody's assigned, or when everybody's assigned,
Right.
nothing gets done.
When everybody's got a job, nobody's got a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Tim who said that. Okay, that feels like something that will be really helpful. Particularly for this next section. So George, I wanna hold on to what you were saying. But I think what the answer will hinge on this next part. Are we good to move on to,
And just to summarize, we reached out to these implementers, all 19 of them, in June.
Yep.
And have heard from 50% of them approximately. And some of those responses were non-responses, basically. And the plan has been on the shelf for a year now, approximately. And we're 5 months in. And that's where we sit today, and I'm passing it back to the boss, because he wants to talk about Sound Jefferson.
yeah, that is a good accurate summary of where we are. So the next item on the agenda is the town council presentation on October 6th.
No.
I just called you out,
strategy.
no, I caught you out of the corner of my.
Yeah, yes,
Um,
definitely.
no,
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. On October 6th, where they were talking about their priorities, and they hadn't really gotten to that place. Where they had responded to our email yet, but they had a conversation at their meeting, and I was invited to be a part of that. And they landed in this place that where they are assigned quite a number of items. They took the opportunity to not necessarily say, we will do housing strategy area number one, with strategy number 3. They took the opportunity to say at a much higher level that there's 3 kind of areas that they are concerned with. And those were housing, infrastructure, and then a very loose term that I introduced, livability. As the areas that they were concerned with going forward and that they would like to work on.
And for benefit, livability is
Yeah,
crosswalks, ADA compliance.
open space plans were mentioned, so when talking about livability, they were talking about a wide range of issues that cross different, policy areas, the policy areas, ranging from how do we restart the farmers market in town to how do we, what about open space planning? And then there were concerns about the downtown being walkable, whether that's speed mechanisms, traffic calming mechanisms, or crosswalks or sidewalks being usable. So there's a wide variety of items that are probably exceed just those 3 that could be found across this, but that was kind of the gist of the conversation was how do we, I guess my internalization, they didn't say this, but was how do you make the community thrive? And part of this is how do people live here? How do people enjoy the space? And how do they do that safely?
It includes trails.
It could, yeah, I mean,
They're very hot on trails.
the Conservation Commission is working on trails right now, so it could include all sorts of those things, so. I just want to note that, so when they talk about housing, they're really interested in housing development, particularly related to senior housing and mixed use and mixed income housing. Mixed use, for anybody who's not steeped in the housing development world, relates to housing building where there's multiple uses between commercial and residential. And mixed income refers to residential properties where there might be an affordability covenant for one portion and then a market rate component at another portion. Or maybe even different types of affordability covenants. Maybe one is affordable to households earning 60% area median income, and the other is affordable to households earning 200% of area median income. So just really looking at it from serving different populations and households that might be in town. Some things that I noted to prepare us for this conversation is that there's 38 policy areas within housing. And then, I'm sorry, there's 38 is a typo, and then there's 36 housing strategies. There are 7 strategies across a couple policy areas that reference roads. So quite a bit, which fits nicely with this kind of approach that we've talked about is who are the implementers? But also gives us the opportunity, I think, to take a look and see what has been identified in some of the responses and in our conversations with implementers. But what would we like to learn more about? And would we like to make recommendations to the council on areas that they could work on or direct others to work on? This approach here, again, I think is really nice because they aren't probably the right party to start the conversation about what does reforming zoning look like? Or what does it look like to add planned development districts into the zoning ordinance, but they can direct the planning board who works on those issues to do that,
So there's a lot of jargon coming out of Steve's mouth. Just love him for it. Some of us know what a planned development district is, some of us don't. It is another way of looking at it is it's a district, it's a zoned district, which we do not have in Winthrop right now, that allows for a blend of development in that city district, as opposed to residential. commercial. So plan development is another way of, another way of approaching it was overlay. And it's, the new term is plan development district, just FYI. That was one thing, he said, there was a couple others, yeah.
So if I slip into acronym or jargon, particularly when we're talking about housing, please feel free to pull me out or say you used an
Well,
acronym.
that was one of the things that, because I know that we've been talking about affordable housing, and when I looked at the plan, you know, that word was just there so many times. And I came up with the question, affordable to who?
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, you know, multi-levels and those sorts of things. Have those things been decided, or are those things being looked into, or how does that work?
Would you actually like me to answer the question about affordable and then I can go to your second question, or do you just want me to?
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, George. Affordable has roughly 75 different definitions. And then we have to talk about whether we're talking about affordable housing with a capital A and a capital H, or affordable housing with kind of a lowercase a, lowercase h. Affordability generally means when a household spends no more than 30% of their income on housing and housing related expenses. Typically thinking about rent or mortgage, utility costs, electricity, heating, and some other costs wrapped in them. So that's what.
Does that include Texas?
Yeah.
That is described in the plan as well as what affordable is. It is not low income. It is not low income.
Yeah,
It is, and I think the way I like to, other words that Steve will often use are right sized and right affordability. It's fitting our population. It's a way, housing that fits the population. And all those figures and numbers on what our average income in Winthrop is, it's all in the plan. It's affordable for the school teacher in Winthrop. It's
this
affordable
is,
for the
this is a
policeman in
good thing,
Winthrop,
because I
right?
know that used to be the rule of thumb that your monthly house payment shouldn't exceed your annual pay, or
Yeah.
whatever it was, and so this is helpful.
So, and then when we talk about affordable housing, and I'll just say this because we'll get back to the plan and then I'll take off my word hat for a moment. When we talk about affordable housing with a capital A and a capital H, that is referring to housing that is somehow restricted to households that have a certain income, whether that is households at 80% of area median income, which you sometimes might hear referred to as affordable housing or workforce housing. Workforce housing, there's no dictionary definition, but it is typically thought of housing that is affordable to households that are between 80% and 120% of the area median income. There's other types of affordable housing, like housing that is financed through the low income housing tax credit programs, which is affordable to households earning 50% or 60% of the area median income. And that in our community is teachers. And some of our firefighters or volunteers are beginning to work on, or we're working on in other communities and volunteer here. So, so affordable, capital A, capital H just means that there's some mechanism that ensures it's affordable, no more than 30% to households that earn a certain, some income, as determined by what could be any number of programs. This question, right? I think this question really highlights that we're going to get into some things that are really deep and really technical, including even traffic calming features, right? So I think one of the things when we think about livability and walkability, I think it's amazing how full the town gets when there's the ball on a Saturday and Sunday. But with Main Street being paved now, that turn coming down in front of Parks, it's wide, it's wide open, and you want to go fast there, and there's a crosswalk, a blind crosswalk. How do we make sure that people feel safe with their kids downtown? And I mean, Halloween, the Downtown Revitalization Committee was really vital in having a pretty wonderful Halloween where shopkeepers were out. It was really nice to see. So, and unfortunately, we didn't have any crosswalks painted at that time. But even still, how do we have people know that it's wonderful, that they can come downtown and access it and throw those types of events more often?
It was pretty amazing.
It was.
Thank you.
Thank you to the community. Thank you to it was just,
Right.
Cool.
It was. We gotta watch out, next year's gonna be bigger and better.
Yeah, which is great. I think those are all, when I think about livability.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I think, why you have traffic calming features 365 days a year. So that the 15 days when you want to have the arts festival or Halloween or the Christmas parade or the Memorial Day parade or. You know, the art show, whatever it is, people know that downtown is a great place to be. Or when people from away come to use the lakes. They maybe leave their boat and trailer, well, parking lot's kind of tight, so maybe I don't suggest that, but. But they don't just come for the lakes and leave, they come to go to Black Rock, or to go up to Tavern.
Right.
The police tell us that we don't have a speeding issue on Main Street. That is they put those things out. But what we've advocated for is calming features. You can't change the speed limit. It's a state driven number. And, I think the one thing that bothers me more than anything else is the people who decide, and more prevalent in the summer, you turning on Main Street. Coming from 133, the railroad tracks, and you turning into one of those parking spots on the other side of the road. On Main Street. Blocking traffic in both directions when they do it. We need a sign that says, no U-turn, please. I mean, come on. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
You're okay, you got right down in the weeds on that.
I'm sorry.
Helping me out. 'cause I'm
So
usually
far,
right down
so
there.
It bothers me.
So I wanted to have this conversation and back to, I didn't know U-turns would be brought up, I'm happy they are.
I'm sorry.
I will no longer do that, it's time to tattletale on myself. So we now have the town council has decided kind of their policy areas, and some that fit neatly within policy areas and some are a bit broader.
How do you feel about it?
We've received information from the some implementers, varying levels of information. We haven't necessarily received, as I've communicated, like throughout this process, I was hoping that the implementers would give us their feedback so we could say, here are all the areas. Maybe there's some overlap and we could be a grading and joining and convening entity. With the lack of that information, I'm feeling like it may be an appropriate time where we work through the plan. And say, here are some recommendations, or here are areas we'd like to learn more about, so that we can make recommendations. We can sort down from 38 recommendations within housing to say to the town council, here's 3 that we think you can be most impactful with. And that's why I didn't want to answer your question, George, about how do we reach out to the implementers, because is it actually time where
We get to,
we decide, like, we look at what are the top priorities for us based on this guidance of the town council's 3 priority areas, identify some things and then reach out to the implementers to ask if they're working on it. And I wanted to have that conversation this week.
I think it's a great idea. It's fun. Which means we take our 3 or 4 areas and go look and see what we like and come back to the committee.
That's one way, yeah.
Would it also be like, reviewing publicly available material, on department specific sites as well as. Anything on the town site or anything that we could identify that they have been potentially working on or have, are pursuing actively. Be another.
I sort of thought you just go, I know most of these people I go and talk to Penny and say, how are you feeling about this? And what do you think you can't do? And what do you think you can do? And maybe you're not ready to give me a response, but I'm your contact, let's work together. Just start very broad. And then start from down there.
That was kind of my thought too, introduce ourselves and. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but. And just kind of. And that's what we kind of started to talk about last time, and then. We decided to put it off until. My question that's coming up in here is, I like the idea of going through the plan and doing that, but, well, not even, well, I guess it is, but when would we do that? I mean, we need an hour a month
Yeah,
roughly.
I think that would be some time to go through in between meetings. We can also invite, as one thing we could do, and I've seen in other communities, is you can invite in subject matter experts, whether that's town staff or, we can invite, Hollowell was awarded a traffic calming grant from the Maine Department of Transportation. Maybe it's inviting in a member from their team. Other community volunteers to tell us about what they were doing to achieve those similar goals to help increase our awareness. I don't think we will have the sum total of all the answers in here. Maybe it's generous to think we'll have any answers,
Yeah.
but that's how, I think it does require some work outside of this to review and get into areas. I don't think it needs to be a deep dive. You certainly don't need to read through the whole document between each meeting, so we could come up, there's 19 implementers. I believe there's 8 policy, 8 big large policy areas. We could just say for the next meeting, we want to do the store, or we want to do local economy, or we want to do housing and public facilities. And that could then drive our conversation. So for George, with the committees that the implementers you're working on, if we're working on local economy, you could reach out and have that conversation, be a bit more directed and say, hey, we're going to be talking about this session of the comp plan at our next meeting. Could you tell me if there's anything you're working on within this? So
Yeah.
I think that way it helps us get now, and I think for the implementers who fundamentally the comp plan is not their work.
Right.
It is a portion. It may be a lot of their work, or just maybe a small portion of their day-to-day. So that's how I've been thinking about this a little bit to help us move into that. And I appreciate everybody's patience as I wanted to go through this learning from the implementers phase for the past 5 months, and this can help shift us getting some full in the engine and moving out of the station.
Well, and I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to meet with Penny. And say, oh, Historical Society, you didn't send it back. I'm here to say hi, here we are together. Is there a reason you didn't send it back? Is there a barrier that I don't know about? Because if there's a barrier, I need to figure out what the barrier is to break through it. So I sort of think maybe have that step to have open the conversation, and then you'll know if there's barriers or not, and then we've started on a friendly note and an easy note, gentle.
In that vein, I think that it would help every one of us to actually see the responses you got.
Yep.
We do, so we aren't going blind. So let's
Yeah.
say, okay, so we know that Penny didn't get because it went to a blank email address. We don't know who was opening and we're reading.
And that could have been all.
We probably need to resend you that email.
I'm being generous.
It is a very generous interpretation.
But I've got Mark Arsenault. I don't need to introduce myself to Mark. I've known him a long time.
Right.
I am not gonna go bug him immediately. So I'm gonna take a different approach with it, like you said, it'll be an individual approach with each one of them. Mark is overworked, underpaid, and still for whatever, and so we'll take different approaches, but did Mark respond? I need to know. Have we heard anything from Mark?
So all of those documents still live in the Google Drive folder that everybody has access to, and I can send them to everybody. If you'll all indulge me and allow me to send out one email with all of the responses, I'd appreciate that.
Perfect.
And you can just download what's important to you.
Great. Have you sent us the Google Drive info?
I have.
Yeah.
It was a June, I think, so.
Yeah,
Long
it
time
was
ago.
actually- It was, Jeff.
Long time ago.
And
It's
that's
in
okay.
my CPIC folder.
I'll go look for that email, but
For the next month, are we primarily focusing on just the initial questions that were sent out? And then for subsequent months, we will focus on, say, a specific area of the plan and any strategies that fall within? Or do we want to focus on like a specific area already?
Thoughts now?
I think-
I think it's okay to move right into a policy area. I think it's been 5 months. I understand the variety of reasons why people may not have had the opportunity or may have been caught in a different folder. for any good reason, so
Well, here's a classic example. She never saw the email.
Right,
The president of the society didn't see the email.
yeah.
were you president in June?
Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I should have.
So I would like to move right into kind of policy areas and working through them and. I would leave that up, if we want to have a conversation about what we'd like to. Either talk about or learn more, but I guess maybe take a step back. Do we want to invite people to talk to us
Yeah,
about? If there's somebody that we can find that might have subject matter expertise or experience.
I love the idea of all of them, and that's close by, handy, I can go see, they can talk, I can go look, you know, I like it.
You can see if you can zoom through it.
Yeah.
Guarantee
you I have.
I like the idea of picking a policy and then working within that policy that narrows things down to a doable amount of work it seems to be between meetings. So we can look within that one, and I can't remember when you have it organized by policy area and then implementers within policy area.
It's,
And those strategies, everything by you.
it's all by it's by recommend, and I'm using the wrong language for anybody following along. It is a recommendation area,
Okay,
which is, so we have them in our workbook as recommendation areas, which includes the different implementers and the timeline. Then we have timeline, short, medium, long, and then we have just sorted by implementer.
yes, okay.
So there's a variety of ways to look through, but I'm curious if anybody has, do we feel the need to take a formal vote on like this being our approach, or does this consensus feel good?
I think you're hearing consensus.
Yeah,
I think the only thing I would add to it is when we go and look at our areas, our implementers. We're gonna go drive by policy, but I think I want to keep the 3 areas that the town council chose as a framework.
Yeah.
To start cherry picking the strategies we want to bring forward. And bring to our implementers.
Yeah, I think, thanks for that framework of within the different recommendation areas, looking for housing. Livability, and many of these are going to be livability, so we can, that's probably the one that will be the squishiest. And then infrastructure, and I think for infrastructure, we can really think of it for right now as roads and sidewalks. But there's a great, on next week's meeting, there's a conversation about a new fire truck, ladder truck.
Yeah.
Which is infrastructure, so, and a conversation about about capital asset management planning, which if we want to get really excited about municipal planning, I could have that conversation about why that's cool. So keeping that lens,
So the ladder truck
Was
was,
housing, infrastructure, and what was the third one?
livability.
and the ladder truck is an interesting entity. It would never have been something that we said on the comp plan because we didn't know. The status of our current ladder truck. It's not a strategy for us, but we need.
Nor do I think I don't think it needs to be necessarily, because it's just part of providing services to
Right,
the town.
right.
And
But
all this equipment at some point has to be replaced, whether it's a Concor or whatever, that falls
School
off to.
It just, what it does, just so now
department heads.
it's a priority for the town. It's going to be a financial investment. They're multi-million-dollar investments. I think they're $2 million. Don't quote me. I think that's what I heard. And it takes 4 years to get one. They don't just pop out of nowhere. You can't go down to Charlie's and buy one, right? So, it's a long-term deal. But it's because it's money and a priority, it's gonna limit.
I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I don't know that it really does limit, because I think one of the things we also have to get after, town is to get after is the idea of planning ahead for these types of things that are known costs.
Absolutely, absolutely, don't disagree. The cap investment plan, right?
We-
And putting some money aside, right?
Yeah.
Which is in the plan under fiscal capacity. Fiscal capacity is one of the recommendation areas, and this likely, while it doesn't say, save for ladder truck. Which would be really cool. It does say things like, formalize, review, and update the town's capital improvement plan on an annual basis, incorporate improvements into the annual budget and expand its scope to 10 years into the future. This, whether this is included in, whether, you know, this type of investment is formally described in a capital investment plan, I am not that into the weeds on what's involved, but to me, this is big infrastructure, if only because we have a service that we offer and the cost. So thinking about it as, you know, one of the things, so asset management planning, I really like asset management planning because it looks at all of the municipalities' infrastructure. And infrastructure is a really broad category there, and it looks at it for the life of the duration of the useful life of the item. So you don't plan for the road to repave the road in year 10 when you need the road. You are saving for that replacement along the way, so you don't have to incur that big cost. And what does that do in the short term? That means a little bit more every year, as opposed to a lot more one year. So there's all. I think that highlights that, yes, it's in here, not, maybe not specifically, so. Those are,
And they've turned the corner on this.
Yeah.
The town went multiple years without putting anything aside. Really pulled the reins in, and they're turning the corner and starting to plan financially, so they're doing that.
so we've got a pathway forward. We've got, each person has some implementers that they'll be taking the lead and supporting and contacting. We've decided that we'll do a recommendation area, maybe one every month, but maybe there's some that are 2 months, and maybe there's one that is 2 months. I'm sorry, once there's some that are 2 per month, and maybe there's one that spans over 2 months. Does anybody have an area where they would like to address for the first one?
We're talking about December.
Talking
I
about
was just
December,
about to say, what would you like us to be our goal for our December meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty,
why don't we ask that we do the historical society in December?
Please go.
It won't take long.
It doesn't matter, it's a lot to do.
December's tough.
It is tough to get somebody. in.
I'm sorry.
Between January and April.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
no, you, it's,
It's okay. I picked on you.
I had a conversation with somebody on the Conservation Commission, not Amy Hughes, who's on the town website.
Right.
But they seem to have a good drive forward. They seem to be doing things and with a direction. I don't know if it all at all fits what we're talking about, but it might not be bad to see if we could invite them.
we could invite them, but they are not, would they be able to talk about recreate, so,
Oh, no,
so
Oh.
if we're going by recommendation area,
okay.
it would be somebody to kind of speak broadly about, and maybe it is,
Trails.
maybe it is recreation and they're speaking about trails within there, but
Okay, sorry.
here,
I just know that they're doing.
we haven't perfected this yet.
Do you want us to come back with our top 3 or 5 per area next month? I don't know. I'm asking. I'm just
Well, I think it's,
swinging.
I think it's now getting down to consistency of, do we want to stick with one policy area? And maybe it is, maybe we all come back. You know, an approach to be, and I'm gonna use housing because that's just where I can speak the deepest from, maybe December, everybody comes back in with their 3 to 5 in housing. Maybe we come to consensus on 3 total, and we invite somebody in the following month to say, can you talk to us about this? Maybe if it's about tips, or maybe if it's about downtown revitalization, right? We bring in Main Street Maine. We ask if they can come talk to us. And I'm just using that as an example because I think those conversations are ongoing. But that could be an approach that allows us to get into it, come prepared, and be prepared for a more refined conversation the next time, so that if we did land use and we all focused on trails, maybe then instead of having somebody come talk to us about land use planning and zoning ordinances, we have the Conservation Commission come in and talk to us about conservation. Is that,
So if we do this approach, we would. This is Pat Ladd's interpretation. We would read the comprehensive plan, that section. We would look at the policies. And look at those sections and then come up with our 3.
Yeah.
As far as what our homework is, right?
Based off of who our side folks are.
No, just
Just
what
overall.
what you believe is important, and you could keep an eye out for those.
So as I'm looking at this, the four recommendation areas are general, land use plan, capital investment and regional coordination. Is that right?
Yeah, there should also be transportation.
Maybe it's in different section. Transportation.
It's broken out different, it's broken out differently in the general.
Back here.
If you look on page 203 of 301, which I just opened.
303 to 301.
Just like that?
Yeah, I just got very lucky.
Oh, I was gonna say, you are a little too wedded to this.
No,
203.
303 to 301.
out of 203 out of 301.
203. Oh, okay, there we go.
Those are the general recommendations
Okay,
that we crafted the work.
okay.
Any? If you forgotten,
What have I forgotten?
I said it, I don't know that you
Yeah,
forgot
I put it
anything.
in front of me.
Here,
Oh,
can you give this to it?
no,
Oh.
Dawn did.
So those recommendation areas.
This looks.
General.
You printed it yourself.
Yes.
That's why.
Oh, I have one.
I've never, I just got this tonight.
Oh.
What you
So
want.
one,
Dawn
Jerry,
printed
how
that
do we-
somewhere.
Well, we haven't decided.
I don't have, I have nights that I don't have anything else to do.
You don't want one.
Yeah, I do.
You know where she lives. Yeah, yeah. You'll see her next Wednesday.
Okay, I don't have that.
So we're coming
But I
back
made
with
it
some
work.
housing ideas next month.
Well, it can be, I was just throwing housing out because
I think it's a good idea. Let's start with housing.
Housing is the biggest.
Near and dear to my heart.
But it's a hard one.
It's a very hard one.
Right.
When we all have different ideas on the best ways to go with it. Let's start with housing next month and talk about. I agree.
it sounds like a lot of people want to talk about housing. Does that work for everybody? Or are there other strong feelings?
Describe, like what I just said, describe that better than I said it, so we all know what you would like
So-
us to, how to focus on this, so
Yeah, so-
I don't do my homework wrong.
So next month, please come in prepared. After reviewing the the housing section under general recommendations, which starts on 203, and now I can so George can tell us what page housing starts on.
Housing starts on page 213.
On 213, so come in with somewhere between, I think 3 is probably the sweet spot of strategies that you think are important. And that we should work with the council and other implementers to implement.
And if you have questions about what you're reading, there's 3 or 4 of us you could reach out to who can help you. Who maybe have tried to understand. This guy works in the field. This woman works in the field, in different areas in different ways. So reach out to us. We might be able to help.
so on those, is there a preference for short, mid, or long term? To focus on or choose from those, and then I'm going to just guess that it should be something that is attainable currently, right?
It's all the housing associations.
Yeah, Whitney, I expect you to come in with 3 simple solutions to those 84,000 units in the next 3 years. No,
Well, I mean, for the sake of our implementers, like, we don't wanna come up with something that's completely
no,
unattainable in, 20 years. Say do this one.
no, I think it's a good question about ongoing short, mid, or long term. I think if you come in with all long term, there might be questions from the council or other implementers that say, we're not there yet. So, but if there's something that really sticks out to you, is really important as like a long-term goal of. Establishing a housing development corporation. That's a pretty long-term process, and maybe it feels important to you that we start that process now. Yeah, of course.
My problem with this is none of my implementers are in this part of in this general recommendation area.
That's okay, just because you have implementers of like your domain, doesn't alleviate you of the responsibility of working with us on this bigger section.
I think we all come at life differently, so what you think about housing is gonna be way different than what everybody else
Yes.
thinks. So I think everybody's input is important, because we all see it different.
Yeah, and I think, George, the other part, right, so with public schools, they might not be listed here as an implementer for any of the housing things, but without housing that is affordable to teachers in the community, it is going to be increasingly hard to hire teachers. If we don't have housing that is affordable to young households that have children, the schools become an entirely different calculation, so having those conversations to gain those input and feedback from them, they might not be identified as somebody who goes out to support the creation of a TIF district, but they might be interested in understanding how they could know more about efforts going on that could increase school enrollment, decrease school enrollment, increase accessibility for teachers, so you're still here and you still get to bring through recommendations.
So many things we could say about housing. We could go on and on about approaches and we all have different ideas. Steve's very interested in short-term rentals. Pat may be very interested in
Senior housing.
senior housing. That's that right size housing for our seniors. We have these seniors living in the old homes they've lived in for a long time that they don't need anymore. That shouldn't be probably living there. They should be living in condominiums or apartments where they're single level and we need to look at right sized,
You're not senior.
suitable.
Yeah, you be careful when you speak about seniors.
I'm one of them and I have a multi-level home. I'm one of them. I'm a senior too, so. We need to look at senior housing, right-sized housing, affordable housing. Our teachers and our policemen cannot afford to live in this town. So it breaks my heart. Yeah, so let's just all have fun with housing next month. Why don't we?
Because it's fun.
It's fun.
It'll be lively conversations.
So we'll come in, we're focused on housing in December, it will be a focus on, everybody will come in with their three, ideally, if you could send out your three ahead of time, that'd be great, so other people can start thinking, or maybe do the research, but if not, that's okay.
Can we actually start a meeting date, so we all have?
Yeah, we'll see on a Wednesday. That was my fault.
Oh, okay, on Wednesday, I kind of like one, so
Today.
Oh.
And then, it's like, the meeting's tomorrow, because he set it up, so.
And then, so
And then he came
we
back and said.
are not working on reaching out to the implementers that were assigned to for this coming month.
I don't think there's a need yet, because we don't have or you can introduce yourself and say,
I'm sorry,
thank you.
sorry.
Or you could reach out and say, hey, I'm Whitney, I'm on the comprehensive plan implementation committee. We all have kind of implementers that we'll be working with. I'm working with you. We're talking about housing. Is there anything of particular concern in the comp plan that or anything related to housing that you think would be helpful for me to know?
I'm gonna.
do we have names,
It's all
do
down.
we have names of our implementers?
I can get that for you.
Yeah, and contact information. Okay,
So next month, the second Thursday of the month is December 11th. At 5:30. And it's gonna be the second Thursday, not the second Wednesday.
And how about if you give us January's date, just because it'll be here before we know it?
January, the second Thursday of January is Thursday, January 8th. February is the 12th.
It's good that we can start getting more calendars. So the goal for me and for Jan 8 is to come with a etched out grid with names crossed off.
That is an ambitious goal over a big holiday period. I was gonna give you all of January to work on it.
I'd like to have it present on the 8th, but you'll love me if I do, and if I don't, you know.
We've gone over our 6:35 now, just a couple minutes beyond.
oh,
What are we doing here, Pat?
I'm just talking.
director,
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing. She's always pretty sneaky.
Okay,
We'll take care of all that, Pat. We got it.
okay,
I'll send it out in the email.
okay.
Because then what we'll do is we'll I'll send the contact information. We'll figure out why Penny has decided to hit delete on my emails.
Frankly, I haven't started reading them until about a week and a half ago. It's not yours.
Penny, I'm very much just kidding.
Nobody was reading them.
Mary.
It's okay, Penny. I was very much just kidding.
There you go.
It is not an issue at all. We're all good here.
No, it is an issue for me. Because now I know there's something else I need to go fix.
Who's responsible for them, right? And it's not necessarily the president, right?
We had so I appreciate you all, again, with the grace and patience to get to this point where we waited to get input. Gotten to the point where we got some policy guidance from the town council now. We've got an approach where next month, everybody will bring in 3 strategies that they're interested in pursuing about housing. We'll work to gain consensus on which one's there. Thanks so much. Pat has some homework. The last item was committee member updates, which is a catch-all, which allows us to have a kind of broad agenda item. If anybody has anything related to the plan they wanted to share.
It's necessarily related to a plan per se, it's kind of just a generic clarification here, so. In the plan, we define short-term, midterm, long-term, ongoing as timelines for each of these strategies. When, obviously, this is like a 10-year project, right? So. When we look at short-term and it says within 2 years. What was the start date of that? Is that when the committee was formed? Is that when the plan was approved? Is that,
Technically, when the plan was approved, which was last August, a year ago,
so we have a year left to hit short-term goals?
basically.
We have a year left to be on time with short-term goals.
And Tim, let's remember, not all goals will ever get accomplished.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
But a fair statement would be. Short-term things, if they were to have. Been championed by whatever. Should be accomplished by August of 2026.
So having
In
said that,
an ideal world,
so having said that, does it make sense to nudge the people with short-term goals?
There are too many short-term goals.
Right.
To get.
Well, that's, but
Right.
so do we just say, might not happen? I mean, that doesn't feel right either.
I don't think that just because something hasn't happened within the identified timeframe that it cannot happen.
in 10 years.
And nor. Yeah, or nor that like it needs to be scrubbed off and said, you know, it's not, it doesn't cease to exist because a goal, you know, the timeline wasn't hit, right? It's not like a grant opportunity where if you don't submit your application by a date certain, like it doesn't exist anymore. It's more, I think I hear what you're saying, Tim, it's. How do we prioritize these things that were initially identified? There's a limited amount of time left to do within that time period before these other things start trickling in. And I think it's a bit. I've used the term before, squishy. It is like, it'd be great if they all could be on time, but in many ways, this goal is aspirational and unachievable, just given the volume. Right?
Absolutely. So I just want to make sure that just by going off of the definitions here, it says. Easily achievable things, and if maybe by doing some of these easy things, it helps to get the ball rolling and maybe lays the groundwork for some of those.
So is it
Bigger,
a
more
suggestion that
complicated.
maybe our top 3 in housing should be short terms? It's an idea that we should be thinking about when we're picking our top 3.
I think so.
And let's do this.
But I don't
Let's
know.
say short term is 2 to 4. Midterm is
Yeah.
4 to 7, and long term is 5 to 10.
Tim is, I've many times said that it's not defined in the plan, and Tim helpfully proved me, found out that I was wrong. It's on page 202. Yes. You can.
I found it.
That's enough.
It tells you what it is, right?
Yeah, on page 202, short term is presumed to be activities which can be completed within 2 years, midterm. Are,
I know they're not like, I know we don't have to be super rigid about that. But I just think we're also gonna cheat ourselves out of time to do some
And
of
we
the
didn't write that either. Let me be
bigger
careful.
things, if we just like keep kicking the can down the road.
That was probably absolute verbiage that was carried over from. Yeah,
so I think, Tim, to your point is, should we focus on these things Sure, but I also don't want people to feel limited, that if they see something that they actually feel is easy to achieve, that they're not bringing it forward because
Yeah, so
we put this already. I don't wanna
what
let
is easy?
Yeah, yeah.
How did that get there?
Yeah. So, but yes, thank you for highlighting that.
Finding three is going to be difficult. That will be a challenge.
A little bit.
It will. But maybe the 6 or 7 of us will have 3 and we'll have 18 and it'll be wonderful. And you want us to publish them to you beforehand?
If you can, but I understand everybody's busy and somebody might wanna bring up some, surprise the group. That's fine too. So. Well, from there, I was asked to be part of a stakeholder group that the state's putting together for a bill that was just passed that has to do with comp plan and planning. So I'll hopefully be able to leverage good learnings from that group and from the experts they bring in to talk about that to help shape the work we're doing. Hey, it's your time to shine, and we're back to public comment.
So when, can you give me a specific time frame that did go out? You
Uh,
said
June.
it was June, but
Yeah,
Between the 4th and the 12th, this.
Hey.
It was after that meeting that we had lunch.
Okay.
It was like within a week after that.
it went out,
that was about the time.
Yeah. Life happens.
yeah, it's,
Okay,
again, not a,
I just wanna look for it and not have to go through 300.
I do have a
one
comment.
went out on the sixth, one went out on June 16th, which included the worksheet, that just has all the items for the Historic Society, so that's there, and then the other one would have gone out on the second. The second, probably, June,
June, right,
and if you don't have it, we can
That's fine.
resend it easy.
yeah, oh, well, I'll ask you for it, I don't see it. Or if it's been erased. My second question is, just help me a little bit, to clarify. Why is the Historical Society,
An implementer,
uh,
because you have a section in the plan. Remember that you helped write?
yes,
Okay.
That's a great question. We were, as the implementation committee, we were handed the comp plan.
right?
The implementers were identified within the comprehensive plan. I'm here for it. And so we've been working off that assumption. That's why one of the questions we asked was like, do you feel it's appropriate that you've been identified as an implementer in all the ones you've been identified?
And let me compliment you, because, and I was just talking to Steve about this. This morning, we learned from the Historical Society, from the 2010 comp plan, they accomplished in the last 25 years, they have accomplished so much.
Yeah.
They've reestablished themselves, they've bought a building, paid for that building, renovated that building, started housing hundreds of thousands of items for this community of historical value to us, and continue to work that effort. They accomplished so much from the 2010 plan, so that you have 4 or 5 pages in the 2024 plan that we need to keep working, but you're already probably doing some of it, so.
Okay,
It'll be an easy meeting. I won't be too much.
I know your father.
Well, you could let her, give her an opportunity to respond to Steve.
Yeah.
That's true. You could do that.
So it did come from you, it would have come from you
Yeah,
with your name, okay,
well,
that answers a couple of questions.
yes.
It's his comp plan, it's the
Yeah,
committee
okay.
email address.
Okay. I don't even I really feel if Mary saw it and didn't respond to it, she would have brought it to me, so I don't know what happened, but.
We understand how busy I think we all understand, and I don't mean to speak for everybody, but we share the perspective that, again, anything that is identified in the plan, even responding, is additive to people's volunteer work, their regular duties as assigned, and for any number of reasons can get away from us, so not as flippant and, poking at it as I was. We really do understand that the work we are doing is really creating a bit of work to help centralize and communicate it.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad I came tonight because I would not have known this.
Right?
Move to adjourn,
Yeah,
all right,
Second.
Here.
all right.
all in favor, great.
Thank you.
Can you close us out, Whitney? Then unplug it.
was making cards, what